From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Live from the CBS studios in San Francisco, I'm Brian Hackney.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. We begin in the South Bay, where the city of San Jose is taking steps to make a pedestrian-only downtown street permanent. The city council approved a plan to turn San Pedro Square into a pedestrian mall between Santa Clara and St. John. But closing the street is not as easy as it looks. Len Ramirez explains.
Well, this was a very unusual move by the city council, not the fact that they approved the pedestrian mall here at San Pedro Square, but that they did that without knowing how they're going to pay for it.
Randy Musterer is the owner of Sushi Confidential, one of the downtown restaurants that was allowed to expand seating into San Pedro Street as part of a pandemic program to keep businesses alive. The street was closed to cars for 3 years, and now that will become permanent.
It's going to remain closed to vehicular traffic, which is great for all the local businesses, and it's great for the community because it's going to create a really good, vibrant environment down here.
There are just a few hints of San Pedro Street's former life as a place for cars.
The vote was unanimous.
All right. But a unanimous vote by the city council means that cars won't be coming back. What will be coming is a pedestrian-friendly walkway of shops, restaurants, and outdoor seating on the block between Santa Clara Street and St. John.
Maybe focus on some other things like figuring out how we're going to fund some of these improvements.
The cost will be $9.5 million, but city officials admit there's no money for it in the budget.
I think it's likely to be a very long time until we have $10 million to invest in this.
The mayor suggested private businesses pay for some of the cosmetic improvements, but the city will have to pay for things like regrading, storm drains, and fire hydrants. Businesses hope construction doesn't drag out because of the lack of funding.
We just want to hope it's not devastating and a lot of these places end up closing because no one wants to come down here during a construction project.
But the project is seen by one downtown neighbor as an overall positive outcome from the dark days of the pandemic.
Having the people spaces, and no cars is great for the kids and being able to get out and bring the community together.
The city will develop a more formalized plan with public input by the end of September, and it could take 2 to 2.5 years before it's completed.
The city rarely creates pedestrian walkways out of busy streets. San Antonio Street and San Carlos near San Jose State University were made into pedestrian malls decades ago.
Right now in Oakland, a fire in the Clinton neighborhood. Citizen app video shows smoke billowing above an apartment building on Foothill Boulevard between 11th and 12th Avenues. Oakland Fire says it started outside before spreading to the building. There's no word yet on if anyone was hurt. Meanwhile, live look outside, mostly gray skies, but that'll change for some parts of the Bay Area tomorrow, according to Darren Peck with the Memorial Day forecast. Hey, Darren.
We will see more blue sky tomorrow. There's something weird going on with our weather for today. There's thunderstorms happening just across the Sonoma County line. We're going to look at that in the big picture coming up in a bit. But since it's really just the clouds that we're experiencing from that weak area of low pressure spinning over the state, let me just focus on the details of what matters. It's a gray, cool Memorial Day weekend. Now, a lot of us are like 10 degrees below average. We stayed cloudy for most of the Bay today. And when you look at this on First Alert Doppler, you can see the thunderstorms just up here moving through Mendocino and trying to get into Sonoma County. There even were a few of those that were showing up just off the coast of Marin within about the last 2 hours or so. You can kind of see that falling apart there, though, for now. So the real question is, what does this mean for daytime highs on Memorial Day? And let me just leave you with that for a final takeaway. In general, I'm going to show you the inland parts of the Bay here for tomorrow. And with more sunshine, certainly, than what we had today, you can expect numbers to get into the low 70s tomorrow. It'll be sunnier, it'll be a little warmer. We're going to get warmer than this in the 7-day forecast. I'll see you with that in a few minutes, guys. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Darren. In Martinez, we're learning that the FBI and the EPA are investigating last year's toxic dust release by a local oil refinery. On Thanksgiving last year, more than 20 tons of toxic dust spread throughout Martinez. The FBI in San Francisco confirmed they are investigating the Martinez Refining Company. The agency says the company failed to notify the county, which is required by law. The company could face fines or even criminal charges.
And now back to San Jose. The mayor set a goal to get 1,000 people off the streets and into temporary housing this year, but now he's facing backlash on how to fund the plan. Devin Feely shows us one of the sites that's already up and running.
It might not seem like much, a lock and key and a door, and the modest room beyond it, but it might just be the key to unlocking the next chapter of George Florence's life.
Just having food and a place is really all it took for me to get back on my feet.
George says a few years ago, a bad breakup started a downward spiral that left him homeless and living in a truck and trailer in San Jose's El Viso neighborhood.
I became homeless. There was a result of a bad marriage, and I was the one to leave.
George was homeless for nearly 3 years, but was recently offered a spot in one of the city's emergency interim housing communities. After settling in for about a week, George showed San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan his new unit, which has space for a bed and a desk and its own private bathroom.
Getting someone stabilized into a private room, an individual room with a door that locks, with a private bathroom, is enough to give people that sense of dignity and hope, and then services can work.
Mayor Mahan says these emergency shelters can be built for a fraction of the cost in a fraction of the time compared to permanent affordable housing, and represent a rapid response of sorts to the ever-deepening crisis of homelessness. George says the program has provided him with a foundation upon which he can build his new life. He recently got a job as a truck driver.
I didn't feel like I fell in a hole. I'm never going to give up. I have 4 kids, and I know that they're relying on me.
People typically stay in the interim housing program between 6 months to a year, but George is already mapping out his next moves.
I'm really trying to get secured into a, not an extravagant apartment, but something comfortable.
2 San Jose City Council members don't like the plan. They said that it would divert tens of millions of dollars originally earmarked for permanent affordable housing projects.
San Francisco's 45th annual Carnival Parade made its way through the city's Mission District. More than 3,000 people danced and marched, representing more than a dozen Latin American countries. Music, dance, food, and culture taking over the heart of the Mission. The Carnival theme this year was 45 years of music and movement.
At Arlington National Cemetery, people placing flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier, just one of countless acts of remembrance of the millions of soldiers who have given their lives for the country.
And here in San Francisco, a special ceremony took place in recognition of the day 300 servicemen lost their lives on a Portland-class cruiser during World War II. That took place at the USS San Francisco Memorial event. The event honored the last surviving member of the USS Indianapolis. Back in 1945, 2 Japanese torpedoes struck the side of the ship in the Pacific Ocean. More than 1,000 men were on board, but only 316 survived.
It's just a wonderful event to be able to celebrate the memory of our great veterans.
Tomorrow, veterans and active members of the military will be able to go to California state parks for free. Some of the parks participating are Mount Tamalpais, Angel Island, and China Camp.
Developing news out of Washington this weekend, where the White House and House Republicans finally reached a deal to raise the nation's debt ceiling. With 8 days to go until the country defaults on its bills, it's now up to Congress to get it passed.
The agreement also represents a compromise, which means no one got everything they want. But that's the responsibility of governing.
That deal puts a temporary cap on spending in some regards. It expands work requirements for some benefit programs, and it reclaims some unspent COVID-19 relief funds. It cuts new IRS funding that was passed in last year's budget deal. It also ends the pause on federal student loan repayments after 60 days. Though Biden's loan forgiveness program is still waiting for a Supreme Court ruling. And in a win for the progressive wing, it doesn't cut any climate or clean energy provisions. And now it's up to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries to convince the more hardline members of their own parties to get on board, which they both seem confident they could do.
I do expect that there will be Democratic support once we have the ability to actually be fully briefed by the White House, but I'm not going to predict what those numbers may ultimately look like.
So I think people will look back and say, oh, I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but there's something in here that it shouldn't be about you, it should be about America.
Lawmakers do have 72 hours to read the bill before voting. The cold, wet weather that we've had has kind of delayed harvest season, but finally it's time apparently to pick your own cherries, which is always fun in the Bay Area. There's been a bit of a wait for the enthusiasts this year. The cold and rainy weather has delayed the start of the season, but you can see folks are out there, cherries are ripe, people are able to come out to some of the best Bay Area orchards. And we caught up with a few of them in Morgan Hill, stocking up on some of the tastiest cherries.
And these are the best cherries, honestly.
Yeah.
The best, yeah.
Best cherries.
The best.
Best cherries.
And it's just fun going out and picking fruit and on a good day like this and enjoying the time out there with our family.
Yeah, it is fun. There are some locations in Brentwood that might disagree. Brentwood cherry picking locations opening up on Wednesday. Cherries are expected to be plentiful for the next 5 to 7 weeks, and they're good.